one of the things I say, two things a lot to try to nip it up front. And I say it so much that sometimes I walk around the house saying out loud, repetition works, repetition works, repetition works. Because it does, but it just takes time to be absorbed. And then on top of the absorbed, believed. But I say a lot, this is not your conversation. One of the most unhelpful things my children do is step in to other conversations being had by their siblings or that their sibling is having with me. And they think they know, they're telling me what I don't know. Every parent listening is familiar. I don't have to explain that any further. So one of the things I just say is, this is not your conversation. Thank you. Mm. And if they persist, I say, I don't know how else to explain this. This is not your conversation and you should excuse yourself now. Thank you. If I know that child's probably not going to choose that and I need to create private space, I invite them into my office, which is also known as the bathroom downstairs, and we turn on the fan and close the door so that no one can actually interrupt, right? Sure. And again, yeah. So one of the things that I say a lot, and I talk about this in my book, is conversation boundaries. This is not your conversation. Another thing is we've been home together more and more and more is them saying to each other, well, mom said, because I'm the parent home the most. And one of the things that I've been able to say to the older children is, I'm sorry, really, when you do that, you're assuming you were there for the conversation that you missed. You think you know all the backstory behind it. You don't. And what you need to really do is just come ask me. Don't even discuss this piece with your siblings that they know nothing about. You don't have to argue it with them. Just come ask me and let's just work this out and keep things simple. Why frustrate yourself? So again, it's setting them free from frustration that's not necessary. That's really been helpful. And then another one is my almost 12-year-old, who's always been this really sweet, easy kid, is suddenly becoming quite difficult. Surprise, surprise. And he said to me the other day about one of his siblings who he has the most conflict, because there's usually that one, right? Or that pair or whatever. And I said to him, listen, I know that he bothers you. Oh no, Mom, his very presence annoys me. And he had this utter look of disgust on his face. And I said, okay, it's good to be real clear on that. His utter presence annoys you. I understand. I said, then why be in his presence so much? If he's in the room and you're annoyed, you know what you can do? You can choose. You have the power and ability to go to a different room. You can go outside. So again, it's saying you can make good choices here. These are your options. Choose them for yourself and have some victory. Have some freedom of not being annoyed by the brother who drives you crazy just by being present. So those have been some of the different things that I have done. Also, when there's just a pattern and it's real obvious that there's certain buttons that are getting pushed again and again and again, and because we're together so much, it doesn't take as long to figure that out. I've pulled aside some of the older kids who are really annoyed by the younger kids and just said, hey, listen, I know that it's been really hard. I get it. We're together way too much right now. But I believe that you can do blank today. Do you think you can? And they're like, and I'm like, great. Let's see how that plays out. And later on in the day, something will happen. And I'll look at them like, I know you can do it. And I just walk away. And again, it's empowering them to choose to be the fullness of who Christ is inviting them to be. It's inviting them to choose what's good and right. And that's found some legs, and it's been really beautiful to watch. And then the other thing is now they're getting older, I don't do it as much. I called it power up when they were little. The oldest child didn't take a nap at age 2.5 any longer. He just didn't need to. But I had a toddler. I was pregnant. I was exhausted. And so because my husband's a contractor, and at that time his tools were charged in our kitchen on the counter, his battery operated tools, and he'd go and watch. And when Dad, the light turned green, they're ready, they're powered up, is what he would say. So I'd say, hey, after lunch, hey, I know that you're not tired, but you've used up a lot of your battery. So we're going to power up so you can play as hard as you can for the rest of the day. And we learned the practice of an hour, a whole hour. And it's like potty training. You have to teach them.
Sure.
But we learned the practice of power up. And we haven't done that for a while because of the age of the children, but because we're home together, the kid who just finished 5th grade said to me the other day, Mom, I just really need power up. Can we start doing that again? And it's like we call it now our reset button, where negative energy is getting higher. We're all with each other. And after that hour, we're just better because we've all had a moment to withdraw. And so those kind of things also help with conflict, creating space where people can be by themselves for a moment, doing quiet activities. And then the other thing is every day by 4:00, even my child who'd be happy never seeing the sun at all because he's a homebody, I kick him out the door. It's just not a choice. And once they get out there, I usually have to drag them back in by dinner time.
That's great.
Those have been our strategies around here. What works for one family doesn't work for another. The nuances of it vary from house to house and child to child. But I'm convinced that telling a child, I know you can do blank, and then cheering them on with little, things like, I know you can do it, as they're wanting to lose it, and celebrating their ability, and then walking away and trusting them instead of overbearing and, like you said, nagging. It creates a lot of freedom, and either they don't choose it and they live with that and it washes over and we all move on, or they do. For those who are like, well, that must all be really nice, my children are at each other constantly, I get that too. I have a child who used to have a physical and emotional event every day that lasted an hour and a half to 2 hours. And we lived like that for a long time because we needed more support than I had and my husband had to give. That's hard right now. Kids aren't well designed for telehealth. But if there are people who are really struggling and just nothing seems to work, I'd encourage you to reach out to a safe space and see what other options there are to explore. I have a child who we had no idea wasn't sleeping through the night. I knew sleep was hard. We'd been giving him melatonin for a long time. During this time of being home together, we discovered he was awake for an hour and a half sometimes in the night. Well, go figure that every day he literally lost his ever-loving mind over every little thing. Literally. And it was expressed physically. He put a hole through one of our cabinet doors during coronavirus pandemic. So, when things are like that, it's worth asking what is going on here, and exploring that and finding support and troubleshooting it, because life doesn't have to be like that. That's not within the range of normal family stuff.